Amen. Good evening. We're coming now to the month of Selichot, Chodesh Elul, and so we have to discuss a little bit about the mitzvah of Selichot, how to do it, when to do it, where to do it, all these things we have to know. A lot of things to understand about the mitzvah of Selichot. So first of all, as you know, that the Selichot has to be done at a certain time. It cannot be done just any time of the day. It has a certain time. So according to the Shulchan Aruch, it says over there that the proper time, the best time to do Selichot is when Ashmoret HaBoker. What is that, Ashmoret HaBoker? We're talking about the last part of the night, right before the dawn, right before Amud HaShachar.
3-4 o'clock?
Right? Yeah, something like that, exactly. 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 3 exactly, that's the point. So the best time to do it is at that time. What's the reason why this is the best time to do Selichot? Because it's a time of Rachamim, right? It's a time of mercy at that time. How do we know that? Because it says in the Kabbalah, right? Zohar Kadosh, Kitvei Arizal, brought down over there, that this is a time of mercies. Especially the last part of the night. Before the morning, this is the real time, you know, when the divine mercies are very much waking up. So therefore, this is the best time to do it, the proper time to do it. I remember, I had one rabbi, when I was younger, I asked him one time, I said, if you don't do it at that time that we just mentioned now, so then what should you do? What should you do? So, you know what he told me, this rabbi? He said, don't do it at all. He said, better not to do it at all. If you don't do it at that time, don't do it. That's what he told me. Is this the halakha? Not really, Ben. The truth is that if you look in the Kaf HaChaim, over there he says, Rav Sofer, that this is not really the halakha. So what is the halakha, Ben? There's different times which are, better and not better and so forth and so on. There's adifuyot. There's different levels of slichot. So as we said, right, the best time, as we said, is at that time. But if you can't do it at that time, what's the second, number 2, number 3, right? What's the other options on the table? Right, so Amud HaShachar. So yeah, you're right, it's true. Amud HaShachar is a very good time to do slichot. But there's also other issues, right? Like, for instance, in Eretz Israel now, most of the kehilot, the Sa'adim, when do they do slichot? Not so much in the morning, like we just said now, before the morning. Because people can't get up that early. It's very hard for them, they need to sleep a little bit. Our bodies are not so strong like it used to be. So it's hard for us to get up in the morning, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. We're like, dizzy, dizzy. We're having dizzy spells at that time.
Exactly.
Very hard to get up at that time.
No more.
You know what I'm talking about, right? So this is why most people nowadays in the Sephardi communities, when do they do slichot? After Chatzot HaLayla, right? After midnight. So what is midnight? This time of year in the summer, it's about 1 o'clock, So therefore, they wait till about 12:30 or 1, depending on the situation, right? What the time is. In Eretz Israel, it's a little bit earlier. Over there, they can start like 1:45, Over here, it's like 1. Something like that, right? But so a lot of people do it this way, because at that time already, according to Kabbalah, it's already time of Rachamim. The Rachamim is already beginning at Chatzot HaLayla, after Chatzot HaLayla. So this is also kosher, It's Lechatchila for Slichot. Good time. Yeah, there's a minyan, of course. Yeah, they gather minyan. They have it on Main Street also, you'll find. If you want to go try it out, go to Main Street, you'll find the minyan over there, in one of those shuls over there, and they have it there. Eretz Israel, everywhere, every town, they have this kind of, every neighborhood, they have this kind of minyan going on. 1 o'clock, 1:45. When they finish, about 1:30, 1:45, they finish the slichot. It's a big balagan, it's like a big crowd. More people coming to slichot than coming to minyan. It's considered to be a big moda. It's a big, right? It's a big It's a big, very trendy these days. To go to Selichot, everybody wants to go to Selichot. In Eretz Israel, it's a very big thing, you know. All the shuls are packed. You know, and they're singing very, very loud and very hard, you know, and they're pouring their hearts out to Hashem, you know, and for their sins. Mechila. Okay. Mechila. Okay, so. Yeah. So, okay, listening. That's good. Listening is good. So, as we said, right, that they're pouring out their heart to Kadosh Baruch Hu, and there's very big chazanim over there also, you know, who are doing slichot very beautiful, you know, like Moshe Habusha, right, and all kinds of good chazanim over there, doing incredible slichot, you know, which make you, if you hear, you know, the Sephardi slichot is not like the Ashkenazi, you know what I mean? It's two different things altogether. The Sephardi slichot, it's like a classical symphony, you know, everything is music, everything is beautiful, you know, beautiful melodies. You feel like you went to the kosher opera, you know, right? It's like everything is a beautiful memory, a melody, everything is gorgeous, you know, but there's also, you know, you should know, by the way, that even though this is very beautiful, the way the Sephardim, they do slichot, beautiful, nothing like it, but there's also one downturn there, you know, something which is not so good. You know what it is? Sometimes when a person is hearing such beautiful melodies, you know, you know, so what happens is that he starts to think it's like a song, you know, like he's singing songs, you know, enjoying singing, you know, like a choir, you know, some kind of a.
That's not good.
But you have to remember, you know, that you're not coming there to sing. This is not a singing in a choir, you know. It's not a glee club, you know what I mean? So what is it for? You have to really regret your sins. You have to think about your sins that you did, and that you regret that you did your sins, and that Kadosh Baruch Hu should forgive you. That has to be on your mind, you know, not just to sing, you know, okay, it's very nice, but, you know, that's not the point, right? So, keep your mind, honestly, you know, keep your mind serious. You know what I mean? Don't think it's just for singing, coming here to sing. That's not the thing, right? You gotta really feel it in your heart, you know, the regret, harata, you know, that you sinned all year, all kinds of sins you did, and now you want the Kadosh Baruch Hu to forgive you. By the way, there's one book, you know, that says, like this. I don't remember the name of the book. There's one book that says like this, that if a person comes to Selichot before Rosh Hashanah, right, we Sephardim, we do the Selichot all Chodesh Elul, right, from beginning to end. Everything, except Rosh Chodesh, right, and Shabbat. Besides that, we're doing Selichot every day, for all Chodesh Elul. The Ashkenazim, they do just like 1 week before. That's it, right? They don't do like we do. You know what I mean? So, it says over there in this book that if a person does slichot like this Chodesh Elul, 1/3 of his sins are already forgiven. You know, in other words, before Rosh Hashanah, before nothing. He didn't come into Rosh Hashanah. Just the slichot takes away 1/3 of his sins. You know, so according to that, it's a pretty good deal. You know what I mean? Can you imagine? 1/3 of your sins are gone. You know, before even you started Rosh Hashanah. So it's pretty good. You know, if you believe this, what it says in this book, so try it out. Maybe it's going to work for you, right? It's very good. I remember, you know, when I first started to pray in this shul, it was very interesting, you know. I don't remember how old I was. I was around 21 or something like that, 20, I don't know. I started to come regularly, you know, like every day. Started to come every day for Shachrit. So what happened was that it was Chodesh Elul, you know. And at that time, you know, the president was Shimon, you know, Moshe, right? You know, Shimon. Yeah, Shimon, yeah. So Shimon was the president at that time. Shimon is a very nice guy, good-hearted person. You know? He has a good heart. So what happened was that he saw that I was coming for Shachrit, right? But not for Slichot, you know, like really, you know. So he told me, he says, come for Slichot also. You know, he told me, he said, you know. So he's the one who got me into it, you know. And I started to come, and it was the first time, you know, that I experienced like Slichot, you know. And I was like, wow, woke up my neshama, you know. I was like, oh my God, this is something amazing. It was beautiful, you know. It was something really very impressive. This was before we were in this building. I'm talking about the old house, right? The house, right over there. We're talking about the house. So we were doing slichot over there at that time, and that's the way we started, you know. So everything has a beginning. It was beautiful, you know. A person can wake up with neshama like this, you know, to do teshuvah by singing these beautiful, you know, melodies that we have and all these nice things. Baruch Hashem, it's a very beautiful thing. So as we said, right, that second best time after Ashmoret, Aboker, is to come after Chatzot. You know, the truth is that in this neighborhood, I don't know if there's many minyanim like that. There may be 1 or 2 here, around here, you know, after Chatzot. They have somewhere? Where? 71st. Oh, okay, that's nice. Okay, if you have a car, you can go, right? if you have to walk, it's a little bit far. But, okay, it's good anyway, it's good. Baruch Hashem. How many people coming? You don't know. It's interesting. Wow, interesting. Okay. So, nice. Yeah, it's very good, Baruch Hashem. Kenny brother, Kenny Frotz, right, as we say. So, it's good to have more and more. So, that's the second best. What about if you can't do after Chatzot? You know why they like to do, by the way, after Chatzot? After midnight? Because people are staying up late these days, you know what I mean? Nobody goes to sleep early anymore. You know, everybody's staying up late, 12, 1 o'clock. So anyway, you know, go and do Selichot and finish it off, you know, and get it over with. You know, and don't wait till the morning, because then you may miss it. You may, you know, not wake up on time and whatever. So if a person can't do that, so what's the other option? As Avi said, right, doing in the morning, also early in the morning, is also very good, you know? Like we do over here. Like, you know, you're going to do like Selichot 6 o'clock. This is a very good time to do Selichot. You know, it says in Zohar Kadosh that the early morning is the time of Rachamim, you know? So this is also very good. So, you know, it's still very early. Nice time to do Selichot. 6 o'clock is beautiful. Right? Earlier the better, right? 5:30, 5, whatever you can do, right? Whatever is good, the earlier the better. But 6 o'clock is also a very, very good time before Shachrit to do Selichot. And, okay, so what other options do we have, right? So the truth is that, there's also another option. I'll tell you something interesting. You know, in my yeshiva, Yechavedat, which was the yeshiva of Maran, Shalom, his son was running the yeshiva there, but Maran was the guide of the yeshiva. He was the Nasi, whatever, right? So Maran told us, you know, that what should we do for the Avrachim, the Talmidei Chachamim, you know? So they have a problem, Talmidei Chachamim. You know what it is? They're learning Torah late at night, you know? So they don't have time to do Selichot at
6 o'clock in the morning.
You know, 12:30, 1 o'clock at night. They're learning at that time. You know what I mean? They're still learning. You know? Maran used to tell us, by the way, if you want to be a real Talmid Chacham, he told us like this. He was a Gibor, you know, mighty man, you know, he told us. If you want to be really Talmid Chacham, what should you do? He said, like Avrech, you know, somebody who's Avrech, learn 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. That's what you should do, you know? Don't go to sleep at 11 o'clock. What is this? What are you? It's not serious, right? The person, you want to be Talmid Chacham, go to sleep at 11? No such a thing like that. Where do you expect to get your Torah like that, you know? The Torah is learned at night, you know what I mean? The Rambam says, the majority of a person's Torah is acquired at night. So therefore a person, you know, it's not good to go to sleep so early. A person should be learning at night. You know what I mean? Laila lagirsa nivra, right? That's what it says. The night was made for learning. That's what it says in the Talmud. And also in the Kabbalah, of course, right? Even more. The Kabbalah talks about that, right? That one. It says that Misha lomed Torah b'layla, achar chatzot, after midnight. Whoever writes, chut shel chesed melaveu oto yom. The coming day, he gets a chesed from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you know? So what, you don't want a chesed? Right? So make sure, you know, that if you can stay up, you know, learn after chatzot halayla, after midnight, you should be learning. So Talmidei Chachamim are learning at that time. You know, the ones who are serious people, you know? So what's the story? The story is that if they do Selichot at 12:30, they're losing like an hour of learning, you know, hour and a half of learning, you know, which is not good for them. So this is not a good option for the Chachamim, you know what I mean? Not really so good. So then what's the other option? To come Ashmoret in the morning, also that's not good. Why? Because if they wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, they're missing sleep, you know, so all day they cannot learn with concentration, with kavanah. You know what I mean? This is also not good for them. So, you know, it doesn't come out this way, it doesn't come out that way. You know, so what's the best thing for Talmidei Chachamim? So what we used to do in Yeshiva and the Kollel of Maran, we used to do the Avrachim, we used to do Selichot, Chatzot Hayom. Right? What does that mean? After we did the morning Seder, you know, we learned until 1 o'clock, and then at 1 o'clock in the afternoon there was Selichot.
Oh, that's good.
This was for the Avrachim. This is not really, in the afternoon, yeah, can you imagine? This is not really the best time to do Selichot, you know? Why? Because already what happens is that according to the Kabbalah, once the Chatzot Adei Hayom comes already, it already starts the dinim, you know, the judgments, you know what I mean? But at that time it's not so strong yet. Like, you know, like at night, it's not so strong. Now, you know, like as this hour, the dinim are getting much stronger. But also the dinim start also from the Chatzot Hayom, you know, 1 o'clock, as we said. So that's not really the best time. But for Avrachim, since the Torah is more important than anything else, I mean, Talmud Torah can get Torah. You know, how can you compare Torah to Selichot? You know what I mean? It's not the same thing. Selichot is only a minhag, and Talmud Torah can get Kula. You know, it's the most important mitzvah that we have. So obviously, right, Talmud Torah can get Kula. So therefore, the truth is, right, that's what we used to do because of that reason. So we did slichot at 1 o'clock. Not everybody did it, but most of the avrechim were doing it at that time because they had no other hour that they could do it. Otherwise, you have to sacrifice your learning because of that. It's not really good, not a good option. So this is mutar. So in other words, if they want to make a minyan for slichot, like before tfilat mincha, they're allowed to do that. It's mutar if they want to do it. There's no isur. So then, when is it really asur? According to the Kabbalah, the isur is at night. What does that mean? Right from Tzita Kochavim, which is about 20 minutes after Shkia, and then until midnight, right? Until Chatzot HaLayla. Those 5 hours should not be doing slichot according to Kabbalah, right? So it says in the Sfarim that if a person does slichot in those hours, right, it's like he's doing more harm than good. He's doing more nezek. Can you imagine? Because he's trying to get mercy, from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but this is time of strong din over there at that time. You know what I mean? So you try to fight with them. What do you want to do? Fight with them? They're doing dinim, and you're coming and asking for mercy. Oh, chatanu lefanecha, rachem aleinu. What rachem? Time of din now. What are you talking about? You have to know your hours. Look at your clock. Everything has its own time. So the truth is, that there's a machloket about this too. So what does that mean? The Ashkenazim, many of the keilot of the Ashkenazim, here also and also in Eretz Israel, what they do is they do slichot like 11 o'clock at night, which is before Chatzot HaLayla, before midnight. So how do they do that? According to Kabbalah, it's no good. So Moshe Feinstein said, that it's already close to midnight, like almost there, almost. So it's not so bad. So is he right about that? So the truth is, that he's right. What does that mean? According to Kabbalah, for sure he's not right. But according to Halakha, he's right. According to Halakha, there's no prohibition, there's no isur to say slichot at night. There's no such a thing like that. You know what I mean? So we Sfaradim go according to Kabbalah. So we don't do slichot at night until midnight, until Chatzot HaLayla. Right? That's our custom. For us, this is like more nezek, more damage than good. What for? What's the point of it? You know what I mean? Mekatzetz b'netiyot, that's what they say, right, in Kabbalah. He's like cutting down the trees, like going into a forest, and cutting the trees down. You're damaging, doing damage. What's the point of doing that, right? You don't want to do that. So what's the halakha then? The halakha is like this, that we Sfaradim, our custom is to not to do it that time. You know what I mean? So the truth is that we also can make an exception, sometimes. For instance, I'll tell you an example, right? For instance, if you have some kind of American community, and they're not very strong, they're weak, they're just beginning, starting out, not so religious, not so Haredi, not so strong, So a community like that, if they don't do slichot sometimes at 11 o'clock at night or whatever, then they won't come at 1 o'clock, Nobody will come, so they don't have a minyan. So if they don't have any minyan at all, so maybe they should rely on Moshe Feinstein, and do it at 11 o'clock, if there's no choice, There's no other way to do it. This is not a good time, as we said, right? This is the worst time, but, it's like, according to Halakha, at least, you're doing something. According to Kabbalah, you're not doing good. Very bad. But what can we do, right? So we don't always go like the Kabbalah, the truth is, that there's a big difference between the Ashkenazim and Sfaradim. When it comes to tefillot, when it comes to prayers. The difference is, a major difference is that we go according, when it comes to tefillot, we go according to Kabbalah, everything. The Sfaradim. Everything is according to the Arizal. Everything is according to Zohar Kadosh. When there's machloket between the Kabbalah and the halakha in tefillot, in prayers, we Sfaradim, we go like the Kabbalah. This is our rule. Ashkenazim, not so. Ashkenazim, no, they say, why Kabbalah? We have Talmud, we have tradition. This is the way we do. That's what they do, Ashkenazim. There's a big difference between us and them. You know what I mean? So this is the reason why everybody has a different minhag regarding this. So if you see, a keilah which is doing slichot at 11 o'clock at night, don't fight with them. Yesh le'em al ma'ismoch. They have what to rely on. Don't go bunkers on them. Don't go nuclear on them. It's okay. We'll live. We'll survive. No big deal, right? Also, the truth is, there's another interesting thing, which I heard from Maran, Ravadia, what he told us was, there's also another reason that you can be maybe lenient to do slichot before Chatzot HaLayla. Another reason. Because there is one Hasidic Rebbe, Admor, like one one of these Admorim. He has a book that he writes something interesting there. I don't remember his name. I don't recall right now. But what he says is like this, that maybe we can do slichot in chutz la'aretz, outside, in America, in Europe, places like this, right? Maybe we can do slichot before Chatzot halayla. Like the custom is, like Rabbi Feinstein said. Even according to the Kabbalah. How is that? So he says, you know why? Because it could be that when we say Chatzot halayla and all these things, we're talking about the time of Eretz Israel, over there. Their Sha'on Eretz Israel, time of Eretz Israel. We're not talking about our time. So what does that mean? That it says, that it's a time of Rachamim, the time which is after midnight, after Chatzot halayla. But the thing is that, are we talking about our Chatzot or the Chatzot of Eretz Israel? Because Eretz Israel, the world was created over there, not over here. You know what I mean? So the Sha'on, the clock of Eretz Israel is the Ikar, is the main thing. So this Hasidic Rebbe, he wants to make the Chidush like this and say, that maybe it's okay. You know why? Because according to Eretz Israel, it's already after Chatzot halayla. So it's a time of mercies. You know what I mean? Interesting. So, this is not exactly the Hachila, but interesting idea. That what? Oh. Right.
Really, the Shabbat is the Shabbat of Israel.
Right, of course, according to Halakha, we cannot do that. You know what I mean? According to Halakha, we cannot do that.
No.
Of course, we cannot do that because, Shabbat is Yisur Skila, Yisur Karet, you know what I mean? But here's the thing, that when it comes to Tefillot, though, it says the time of Rachamim. So, if you say that each place has its own Rachamim, time of Rachamim, so then all day is Rachamim, you know what I mean? According to that. So, you know what I mean? It's a little bit strange. So, how many Rachamim is there? 24 hours a day?
Chicago,
you know what I mean? How much Rachamim do we have? So, because of that, it makes a little sense to say that maybe the Rachamim is according to the Sha'on Eretz Israel, you know what I mean? Over there. Because otherwise, you have to say that Kadosh Baruch Hu is giving Rachamim all night, somewhere in the world, and that's a little bit strange.
Chicago,
Los Angeles.
Chicago,
a little bit strange.
Chicago.
Okay, whatever. You get the idea? So, not so pashut, this whole thing, But anyway, okay, as we said, right? Lechatchila, of course, a keilah which is strong, and they're Yirei Shamayim, they should not do chatzot before. They should not do slichot before chatzot halayla. Of course. Right? Better to do it in the morning, before shachrit. 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, much better. There are some Minyanim also, they do after shachrit also. You can also do that, after shachrit. They finish shachrit 8 o'clock, and then whoever has time, is not going to work, he stays for slichot, that's the way. There are some keilot that do like that also. In Eretz Israel, I saw several like that. All kinds of shtiblach, all kinds of places like this. First they do shachrit and then slichot. It's okay. No big deal, right? No big loss. Either way it's fine, right? But here's the thing, right? Is really slichot an obligation, or what is it, right? Exactly. In other words, according to halakha, you know what I mean? So the truth is, that there's this thing like this, minhag Yisrael Torahi, right? What does that mean? That the minhag of Jewish people is Torah. So what does that mean? Since all the keilot, basically, Sfaradim and Ashkenazim, they have minhag to do slichot. So you really should try to keep it, this minhag, if you can. You know what I mean? Don't say, it's just a minhag, I'll skip it, and that's it. Shalom Aleichem. They have a different custom, they do 1 week. Are you talking about that? You're talking about the length of this.
No, about 1 week.
Yeah, that's their minhag. It's always minhag, nahagu. It's we nahagu like this, him nahagu kacha. I mean, kol echad is minhag. Minhag, whatever the keilah wanted, the rabbanim, you know what I mean? They made this was their idea, like this was their way. And, so therefore, right, this is the way it is, that's the way they do it. So as we said, that the interesting thing is like this, right? That is it really an obligation? So it kind of is in the sense that it's a minhag, but there's also anus racham anapatre. What does that mean? The person, you're blocking the camera. I'm sorry, you're blocking the camera. As we said, right, that anus racham anapatre. So what that means is that if a person has to go to work, he cannot do slichot. He's got a job, the boss won't let him out, so he's patur, right? He's exempt from that, right? So if a person cannot do it for some reason, He's patu. So try to do it some other time if you can, But if you don't have a time, you don't have some other time to do it. So you do the best you can. As we said, also Rabbi Tamim Chamim, they're not so chayav like everybody else. What does that mean? They have to learn Torah. They're learning all the time. So that means that they don't really have a lot of time. So therefore, it says in the books of Maran Rabbi Shalom, he says over there in Harichot Olam and other places, it says Tamid Chacham, what should you do? Try to do the best you can, Like in other words, whenever you have some time to do slichot, do a little bit here, do a little bit there, Come 2 times a week, maybe twice a week, Monday and Thursday, Something like that, Whatever you can do, you do.
You can say also Yachid.
Okay, so that's a very good question, right?
That's what I was going to ask.
The question of Yachid, right? So here's the thing, right? When it comes to Yachid, you can say the Hebrew parts, but the Aramaic parts you're not allowed to say, you know what I mean? Because the angels, the Malachim, they don't understand Aramaic. It says what it says in the Torah, right? In Talmud. So therefore, since they don't understand, if you're going without a minyan and doing Aramaic, they don't know what you're talking about, these Malachim. They're saying, what is this guy talking? So talking Chinese. What is this? What, he's talking Chinese? Well, we don't know what he's talking about, this guy.
So why they don't make all this Slichot in Hebrew?
Because Aramaic is also considered to be, like Lashon Kodesh, something Kodesh. It says in the Chazal that we received both on Har Sinai, right? Hebrew and Aramaic, both. Kadosh Baruch Hu taught both to Moshe Rabbeinu, and he also taught both to Adam HaRishon. So what does that mean? The Aramaic comes from Min HaShamayim. It's not a man-made language. You know what I mean? So therefore it has some Kedusha, even though compared to Lashon HaKodesh, it's considered to be Chol. Considered to be not Kodesh. But relatively speaking, it's more Kadosh than the other languages. You know what I mean? So that's why there are many things that we do in Aramaic. And also, there's another reason you should know, by the way. Why do we say many prayers in Aramaic? The reason is because in those days, that was the most common language in the world. You know what I mean? So like if you were doing everything in Hebrew, most people didn't speak Hebrew in those days. They spoke Aramaic. You know what I mean? So if you were speaking Hebrew, people were like, what are you talking about? Huh? What am I doing? No. Most of the history was like this. You know what I mean? That most people in the world, the Goyim and also the Jews, they spoke Aramaic everywhere. Whether it was Syria, right, or Iraq, Babel, right, all these places, right, around Eretz Israel, all those areas, and also Israel itself, they spoke Aramaic there. The Talmud Yerushalmi, right, the Jerusalem Talmud, what language is it? Aramaic. It's Aramaic, not Hebrew. You know what I mean? So you see from there that Aramaic was very, very much spoken everywhere in the world. It was the most common language. So basically, Aramaic was in those days like English is today. Like most people speak English. Wherever you go, right, somebody speaks English there, right? So Aramaic in those days was like that. So that's why they made a lot of the tefillot in Aramaic, because people didn't understand Hebrew. So this is the whole thing. So therefore, right, what they did was that they made Aramaic into the Selichot as well there. But what we're saying is, right, that when it comes to halakha, a person should not say the Aramaic parts of the Selichot by himself when he's alone. So what should he do? Go to a minyan, right? Or just say the Hebrew parts if you're by yourself. You know what I mean? One or the other, right? Can't have it both ways. Also, Yud Gimel Midot, right? We don't say alone Yud Gimel Midot. You have to skip that too, So the truth is that there is something they do in Eretz Israel. I don't want to go too long. We'll do Arvit now, but.
So why the Siddur of the Georgian Siddur?
Yeah.
They say you can say Yud Gimel Midot, the Ta'amim.
Yeah, with the timing you can say it's true. It's true. If you know how to read the Torah, and you do, right? Adonai, Adonai, Elachum Dechanun, Erech Alpayim, Rav Chesed Ve'emet, Notze Chesed La'alavim, Notze Avon, Rafesha, V'chatah V'nakeh. This is the timing, right? So if you do like that, you can say, you give me midot. It's true. Very, very true. You know why? Because it becomes like Divrei Torah, But if you're saying without the timing, it's like Kedusha. So Kedusha requires a minyan. This is the thing, So it's true, what it says over there, of course. This is Emet, Divrei Elohim Chaim, right? Also another thing, I want to tell you one before we stop here, because of the Shem. We don't have a lot of time. So there's also another interesting thing is, that sometimes, here we don't have this so much, but in Eretz Israel, right, they have over there on the radio, Slichot are being broadcast, on the radio, from, some big shul, like Yeshivat Or HaChaim, The Or HaChaim Yeshiva of Rabbi Elbaz, this is the biggest slichot in the whole country, over there. Huge, a lot of people over there, and big chazanim are coming there, So everybody goes there. It's a big thing, It's considered like a big event. Or kind to the yeshiva. So they they broadcast from there, the slichot sometimes, and also from other places. So what it is that when you hear this on the radio, the broadcast, if it's a live broadcast, you're allowed to answer with them. You give them midot, kiddusha, and everything, because you're saying it at the same time. You give them midot. You're allowed to answer to kaddish, all kinds of things like this. You're allowed to, because you're together with them, in a sense, So this is also an interesting thing, right? Right. The truth is, that slichot doesn't really require a minyan, as we said, right? Just per se, but the kedusha parts of it, like the kaddish and the yud gimel midot and things like this, they require minyan. As we said, also the Aramaic parts, So this way, right? If you're listening and doing together with them, you can also do the yud gimel midot, things like this. You're allowed to answer to them. Same thing also, by the way, if a person hears on the telephone, live, not recorded, right? Or on the radio, right? Some bracha that a person made. Shakol niben vidor. Say amen. You should say amen, because even though it's not the real voice, but he said it now. He said it now. So say amen to it. Right? That's the thing, right? This is the way it is. It's the same thing with the slichot as well. Okay, we have more to talk about. But Hashem next time. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen. Rabbi Hananiah ben Akash Omer, נצא הקדוש ברוך הוא עוזר ישראל, ולפיכך חירבה להם תורה ומצוות, שנאמר אדוני חפץ, למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר. אמן, אמן.